Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. You're in the right place if you're a growth-seeking being who acknowledges the challenges and delights of your humanity on the path to an ever more conscious life. If you want to feel inspired to love and accept yourself, to feel free to be and express you in all your brilliance, if you want to truly value yourself and others and feel energized and alive both at home and in the world, then sit back and take a breath as you explore and grow the brilliance of your beautiful human self with your host, the father of non-personal awareness and creator of the MPA process, Joel Young.
Hello, and welcome to Be a Brilliant Human, the podcast with me, Joel Young, where we dive deep and have a good time as we explore consciousness, humanity, the world of awakening and personal development and all those wonderful things with the human very much at the forefront. So welcome if you're new. I'm so glad you found us. And also, if you're back again for another installment, I just love that you're here with me and come back regularly. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you go ahead and do that. As always, you can message me, give me some feedback. If you've got any questions you want to ask about this show or any of the others, any other topics you'd like me to cover, do let me know. You can do that. All of it is available at BABHhuman.com. You'll find a big message button if you want to leave me a voice message. Always lovely to receive those. Or you can email me or contact me on social media across the board. Again, all the links for that will be there. And if you want to find this episode, then you can just go to beabrillianthuman.com/17, which may seem a bit mad. What I mean there is the show notes, because you might be listening to this on iTunes or something, and going, I'm already listening. Why would I want to find this episode? What I mean is, if you want to find the show notes and all the links, you can do beabrillianthuman.com/17, because this is episode 17. So if you want to find episode, 12, you can just do /12 and it will get you to the show notes for that. So I hope I've set it up to make that really, really easy. So this podcast is still pretty young, 17 episodes in. Can't believe it's already 17. And when I first started, if you go back to episode 1, where it was just a complete, it was a day. I was doing a workshop day because I knew I wanted to do a podcast, and it was kind of an implementation day. And the guy that was running it, the wonderful James Lavers, gave us a task of just getting episode 1 out at lunchtime, which I did, and it was just a complete free flow. And then weekly, I've come at you, and I've kind of taken the whole thing at this point in its younghood to sort of be kind of an experiment, really. So I've given myself license to experiment and play with things. So for a lot of the episodes, I spend a fair bit of time kind of scripting it out, because I want to create this work of art, or at least this, coherent story that will impart to you whatever the messages that I'm giving to you. And then I recently did, if you want to go back to episodes, I've got to remember the names now. I think I'll have to write them down somewhere. But I think it's episode 13, 14, 15, and 16 was a 4-part training, including on the last episode, which is 16, telling you about an offer that I had and something that you could come and join me to do. So that was kind of an experiment to see how you'd like that. It was very well received. Thank you for that. And how that would feel to me and all those kind of things. And as I generally script them out a lot, I thought this time I would see how it goes if I just make some bullet points and do more freestyling. I thought I'd give you a heads up on this one. Part of that is just that I just want to see how that feels to me and how it comes across to you. So do let me know how that goes for you. So that brings us to today. Today I want to share with you 7 power perspectives for being a brilliant human. In a sense, really, these are the guides to my life. They're sort of 7 powerful perspectives, really, or states of being, or ways of looking at the world, if you like, however you want to put that. And yeah, they are kind of guides in my life. I find that sort of by spending, I have spent a lot of time with them. They're kind of when I go through them, you go, oh yeah, he's talked about that a lot. He always mentions that. They're always kind of alive in me. And what I find is by having them alive in me, they sort of bring that sense of fluidity. They can allow me to have depth, and it certainly brings joy to my life. And they really come because they're the cornerstones of the philosophies of non-personal awareness. So for the newbies here, NPA stands for non-personal awareness. I'm mostly known, and you will have heard it in the intro, the father, as I say it there, or the lady says, of NPA. It's a set of philosophies and a practice. The NPA process is a practice, which on the surface is about not taking things personally. But here on this podcast, in general, we're looking at the wider philosophy of non-personal awareness, and I'm offering views from that perspective. So these 7 power perspectives really are sort of what are the threads to the foundations of the non-personal perspective. And I think that if you embrace that, then of course you're going to become a more brilliant human, which is what we're about here. So, I mean, even if you just take one away from today and you run with it and really kind of sit with it and allow yourself to steep in that and play with that perspective, I really think it can have a powerful impact on how you experience and interact with life. So there's 7 of them, and they all start with a letter, as words do. I thought I had some fun before I started this. I thought, okay, let's make an acronym out of it. Now, they almost spell awkward. So I thought, well, they don't, but B, that wouldn't be a very good acronym. But they do spell rad walk, as in rad for radical and walk as in walking. So I thought, oh, that's good. So that they really come in no particular order, but rad walk is the order we're going to do them in. So in a way, I'm going to teach you not to moonwalk, but to rad walk. So let's get into it with the 7 power perspectives. Okay, let's start with the rad part of rad walk. It's quite funny. I was just looking at it and going, actually, that works pretty well, rad for radical, because the first 3 are pretty radical, and the second 4, if that makes sense, are kind of the walk, how you walk in the world. So I love how the magic of the universe works. It's fantastic. Right, so first part of rad walk is rad. First part of rad is R. So the R stands for relational. So again, you will have heard me talk in terms of how the universe is relational. That's how I see the world. It really, the fundamentals of the relational perspective is it's that your relationship affects your experience. It doesn't mean that your relationship with some partner affects your experience, although it probably does. But your relationship to anything, to any experience, to the stuff of life is what affects your experience of it. So, generally we try to fix the stuff. but this point really is that by shifting your relationship to it, you're going to experience more changes, because stuff is solid, right? So relational is energetic. Energetic stuff tends to be more fluid and moves faster. And this whole thing, a big part of the non-personal philosophy is that we're moving from the sort of Newtonian idea, the Newtonian physics of how everything is solid and separate, to the more quantum or quantum physics perspective, which is that everything is energetic, connected, and therefore more fluid. So, and I use this a lot. So if you come to my practice because you have a physical condition, let's give me an example, like fibromyalgia as an example. So fibromyalgia is a condition where the myofascial tissue gets inflamed. It's classified as a chronic condition, so it's already set up with the relationship of permanent, and it can be very painful. So chances are you come to the practice going, I want to get rid of the pain. I mean, understandable, fair enough, but I'm not going to approach it that way, because that comes from that non-relational, solid, separate way of thinking about things. It makes you and the pain or the myofascial or the fibromyalgia enemies. It makes that stuff, it makes the pain solid. It makes it heavy and hard to shift. So I'm going to approach it with the relational perspective. I'm going to work with you to shift your relationship to it, because by shifting your relationship to it, you're in a much more fluid, energetic state, and things tend to shift. And again, just to not oversimplify it, it's not about just changing your relationship to simply the pain or whatever you're calling it, although that clearly is a part of it, because we are, in a sense, complex communities. So I'd work to identify all the parts at play, then all the relationships that are going on between them. It's about resolving the conflicts, finding common ground and common intentions, which allows the sort of the whole system to function better. It creates an environment where healing is going to be much more likely. I mean, I've had this recently. So there's a relatively new client that I have, and he came or has come with an issue around his hip, and the story is that it's hereditary. All the family got it. So again, already the relationship is set up that this is something that is hard to move, and he's was facing a hip replacement, which he didn't want to have. So I worked with it relationally, looking again, as I just said, same as I mentioned with the fibromyalgia, looking at all the parts involved, what's the relationships going on, if we can shift the relationships. And within a week, he reported, he was like, oh my God. Just after a week, he could already feel that, the way that how he could walk, the sense of ease in his hip and his legs and his walk. The whole thing had completely shifted because we'd really nailed what some of the core facets of the relational issues were within himself and with him and the world. So I really have a lot of experience of how working relationally rather than, getting rid of the stuff or fixing the stuff or all that kind of thing, seems to have so much more power. It works systemically. It works energetically. It works relationally. Just think about it like with intimate relationships. So when there's disconnection and conflict, nothing works, right? And there's all sorts of symptoms show up, all that shitty relationship stuff. It can feel really crap. I mean, lots of crappy behaviors or yucky experiences. But once those relational issues are fixed, like the disconnection or conflict is resolved, suddenly it all feels yummy. There's lots of yummy behaviors and experiences that come along. And it's much more effortless and natural for that to happen because the system, in this case, the system of that actual relationship, the partnership, the couple, is in harmony. So those yummy experiences and behaviors are born out of it all by themselves, rather than trying to focus on, certain, trying to get rid of some aspect or those kind of things. You've got to fix the relationship and then the harmony comes. And it really doesn't matter what the presenting condition is, whether it's something you're facing. And again, when you look at the stuff, the emotion, it might be the stuff might be emotional or physical. It might be relationships themselves. It might be money stuff, abundance, whatever it is. But if you think in terms of your relationship to it, then, and shift that, then things are going to shift so beautifully. So that's relational. All right. RAD, R-A-D. The A is for agendaless. Let's talk about agendaless. Well, agendalessness is a word. It's an ungainly word, not even a real word, but I seem to use it a lot. Being agendalessness. It's about neutrality and frictionlessness. And it's about being available to all possibilities. Having no agenda is so powerful. Again, back to energy and neutrality. When you have an agenda and you're forcing stuff and trying to make things happen, you're setting up charges. And in the energetic world, charges create adhesion, friction, and all those kind of things. The neutral place is a place where electrons and energy can flow beautifully. Think of a monorail, a train that uses magnets. It creates a frictionless system that still propels the train really, really well. So agendalessness, there's no forcing, no pressure, no resistance. I mean, think about resistance, right? People don't respond well to pressure, have you noticed? Whether it's external or internal. So if there's external pressure, we tend to sort of put our hooves in. Again, if we sort of create pressure and agenda for ourselves internally, we tend to resist ourselves. People tend to respond better to inspiration or inner inspiration, which comes out of that neutrality. It's not a forced state. So, I mean, try it out. So remember when someone sort of thought they knew what was best for you. and how things should be, and even if their agenda was kind of dressed up in that, it's really for your best. It's only because I care about you. But how did it feel? I mean, even if you ask them for advice and help, but you can tell they offer it, but they have a real agenda that you follow it. If you don't follow my really good advice, then everything's bad. So I'm going to have a real agenda about you agreeing with me, following my advice, doing that stuff. How does that feel? How does it feel? I know for me, I can't speak for you, but answer your own question. It doesn't feel great, to put it mildly. So now try remembering a time when you talked with someone who had no agenda. They were available to listen and even offer advice. But the thing is, if they offered advice, they had no agenda about whether you followed it or not. They were just in an exploratory mode with you. How did that feel? I know for me, that feels a hell of a lot better when someone is just in that non-agendered, that agendaless state with me. It feels so much better. Now, the whole agendaless thing really was crystallized with me with MPA, and agendalessness, that word, is really at the heart of all MPA facilitation. So if I'm working and using the MPA process with people in its different forms, then I'm really going to be coming from an agendaless place. People are often surprised. I stand up on stages all over the place, and I say that MPA is not a results-oriented process. They're like, yeah, but I want to fix the stuff, but it's not. I understand it. It's playing its part in the bigger picture of things. When anyone comes to me, they've done stuff in the past which might not be MPA. Oh my goodness, that have put them in place where right now at this time MPA is there to meet them and do the next bit. And I don't know what that next bit is, but it'll do its bit, and then they'll move on to whatever's next with healing or whatever's gone on with them. It actually takes tremendous humility to come from an agendaless place. I mean, you've got to really admit that you don't know. No one really knows. No one knows nothing. But also with that, I've got to say, but the signs for the next step are always there. That's the beauty of agendalessness. It makes you available. In fact, agendalessness as an embodied state is a state of waiting, of witnessing, and it's of action. Because again, within agendalessness, there's the willingness that in that moment, if you follow the energy, it's going to go into massive action, or it's going to have a strong opinion. But you have to have that backdrop of agendalessness for it to have its full power. So I'm reminded of Charlotte. So Charlotte is she's a wonderful person who's been a client of mine. She's a friend. She's an active part of the MPA community, and she does her own wonderful work in the world. I've mentioned her before on the podcast. She does work with expectant mums and empowers them to have their own powerful experience of their birthing experience. You can find her at birthessence.co.uk. Shout out to you, Charlotte. But she said a lovely thing of me, and it really highlights this. She kind of said to me, I love how you own your don't knows. She reminded me of times, both, again, on stage in front of hundreds of people where I just don't know what's going to happen next. And I go, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next, which is just my puppy-like expression of, oh, I've got no agenda. And then I kind of wait, and then it just comes. And she also was saying how she's experienced that with me when she's been sort of in a one-to-one situation with me as a client of, I've literally said, well, I don't know where this is going to go. And then I wait, and then it kind of, the answer just comes. And I don't care whether it comes through me, through the client, or just from some random place. It's like that availability and that unwillingness to go in the space, in the unknown zone, to try and imprint some historic idea or pattern about what's going to happen. So that's kind of the agendaless state. So in a way, my invitation to you is to be as agendaless as possible with your loved ones. Be an explorer. It empowers them. And be as agendaless with yourself as you can be. Remember that, pressure creates resistance, which is not flow. And flow is going to get yourself, where you want to go with a lot more ease. And, if you've got that kind of, I want it to be this way, or it should be that way, instead, sort of try give this a go. This is one of my favorites. It's I wonder. I love that. I wonder. It kind of invokes that agendaless state. I wonder, what's the best next moment going to look like? Or what does the best next moment look like? And just go, I wonder. And then open. And just let the answer find you. That is an agendaless space. Now, if when you're waiting for the answer to find you, you think it should be, I should discover a deep emotion, or I should discover this, or something that some therapeutic idea has told you is what the answer is, then you're in agenda and it's not going to work. If you go, I wonder, and just be really wide open, then the mysterious and miraculous will find you. Okay, that's RA, and in the rad part of this, that takes us to D. D is for discernment. I love this one, discernment. So the meaning of discernment is, or the faculty of discerning is discrimination. It's acuteness of judgment and understanding. Okay, so again, interesting because those words are perfect examples, because discrimination, you could take that as two meanings. Judgment, you could take it as two meanings. So discrimination really is like being able to discriminate between certain things, and judgment here is having like good judgment about what is and what isn't. I mean, there are some synonyms for discernment. Two that I particularly like, I looked this up, was penetration and insight. I think they're really powerful. I'll get to those, but think about discernment as having real insight and being able to sort of really penetrate the truth beneath the surface. Because let's face it, things are not always what they seem. Yeah, and sometimes they are. And in fact, it's the art of discernment is being able to tell the difference between when things are not what they seem and when they are. Or to quote Led Zeppelin, I was listening to Led Zeppelin the other day, with Stairway to Heaven, and there's that wonderful line, there's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, because sometimes words have two meanings, or in many cases a lot more than two. So now most of the discernment that I like to focus on, for me, it's about being clear on what's the sponsoring energy, what's the energy behind the expression, because the outward expression is really only part of the picture. And the fact that we haven't valued or recognized discernment, and we've just focused on the outer expression, I mean, it's given power to a lot of bullshit performance. I mean, if you look at the political stage right now, it's a perfect example. But that whole paradigm where these people in the place of power get up and act and lie and all the rest of it, and they, well, I said it, so I must mean it. How can you accuse me of not meaning it? I said it. It's just rubbish. But that whole paradigm's been built on the dismissal of, or really not honoring the gift of discernment. In fact, today I had to go get my car fixed today, and or just get the brakes done. TMI. Go and get my brakes done today. And I was driving back, and I had Radio 4, BBC Radio 4 on. I very rarely turn it on, but I think I just thought I'd pop it on. And they were talking about the World Economic Forum. And it was a great example of this, because I don't know if you've heard of, you probably have. I don't watch much TV or radio, so I had to look her up. But Greta Thunberg, she's like a 17-year-old Swedish environmental activist. And she was addressing the World Economic Forum, including all sort of really huge politicians, not as in fat, but as in the power players of politicians. There were, sort of heads of bank and top business leaders. And she called them out. She used her discernment, and that's part of it. Calling people out is part of action on discernment in those kind of situations. She said to them, you say, we won't let you down. Don't be so pessimistic. And then silence. So, she's not buying the surface performance. She's calling them out. And that is, she's an activist. So good on her. That's the active part. I mean, I remember there's also, springs to mind, is there's, I don't know, it's a movie or it's on Netflix. But I heard a line in one of those things. And the character said, you're saying words that sound like caring, but it doesn't sound like you're caring. That's pointing to it. It's like, yeah, I can see the surface expression, but I'm recognizing with my discernment that what's really happening underneath is not that. So that whole thing of being able to really notice that, and I think the thing I really want to get across here is, and part of discernment where it fits into being a brilliant human, is first of all knowing, and then also knowing when to act and when not to act, of course. But that ability to or that invitation to stop denying what you know when you know something's going on, call it out, because that discernment factor in you is going, I see the surface, but what's happening underneath is not the same. At least check it out, double check. Of course, we can all misread. I'm not going to deny that part of it, but it is a practice. And I'm a big fan of trusting your gut and really going with it. But certainly call it out, check, and trust that part of you. Now, there's also a factor of discernment, which is about going inside. So that penetration of yourself, really, because it's also important to call yourself out on your own bullshit. Because we just like the politicians, we'll play to the gallery of ourselves and then we'll buy our own bullshit. So part of discernment is discerning what's really going on in you. So just I leave that one with you. And the other part of the outer side is distinctions. I think distinctions is again a self-responsible part of discernment. It's like you can do the discernment for people because, again, words have two meanings or many meanings. So I often make distinctions. When I'm sharing stuff with you, I often say, what I mean by that, or what I mean when I say that is. I think that's a powerful thing, is sort of a bonus tip in this section, if you like, because those distinctions give clarity about meaning, which I think is so important, especially these days when there's so much, there's a general meaning giving to something, someone says it, and then they get in trouble because maybe they didn't mean that, but the meanings that are being interpreted to it or given to it are considered bad. So I think it's important to clarify what you mean when you say something. All right, so that's discernment. So that's the rad part. So let's go on to the walk part, shall we? Okay, on to the walk then. So walk, W-A-L-K. Let's start with W. So W is for wholeness. Now, I have talked a lot about wholeness because it really was at the heart of the series that I shared in episodes 13 to 16 about my manifestation system and the vision accelerator. And wholeness was at the part of that and part of bringing wholeness into the system. So wholeness really, it covers many things. In essence, what I'm saying with wholeness is that we are many parts. We hold many perspectives. And it's back to relational, because those parts have different perspectives, and sometimes those perspectives can seem opposite or contrary. So wholeness is a mindset where you can hold all the disparate parts as one in unity and yet their individuality, but allow the whole of you. So in NPA, non-personal awareness, and again, I covered this in episodes 13 to 16 to some degree anyway. I call it the multiple perspectives model. I break it down in terms of sort of your human experience. I put it into three perspectives that are really alive, and most perspectives come underneath that. But there's your being, your soul, and your personality. Now, the soul, again, distinctions, example of the soul isn't necessarily the soul as it may mean to you, because that's a word that has so many meanings. So when I talk about it in detail, the soul, for example, is the part of it that's interested in evolution over time. It's as simple as that. The being is a sense of that vastness, that perfection of the now. And the personality is that sort of cold face of humanity stuff that, is my passion and love to embrace. And again, personality is a word, often people think, is that the same as the ego? In a sense, it is. I don't like the word ego, because the very thing is because much of the spiritual movement, or the modern spiritual movement, is about getting rid, actually, and ancient, it's about getting rid of your ego. Well, good luck with that, as I've said many times. It sets up war. It doesn't allow the personality. I'm a big fan of, I say polish your personality, mature. That's what personal growth is there to do. but don't eradicate it. It's the front end expression of who you are in this world, and it has a valid perspective in the whole. Each piece of you matters, including that puppy personality that you have, which can be badly behaved and well behaved, as most puppies can be. Again, I use the puppy analogy because I like to bring a sense of softness to our view of it. So in terms of how that works in wholeness, or to give you sort of a way to look at it, I like to think in terms of a dance rather than absolutes. Absolutes is either or, either I need to be enlightened or I'm an ego. That's an either or perspective, which is going to set up all of that friction and fight and conflict on some deep level. It's just going to be there. Whereas really those parts, that those are kind of dance partners, really. And in a dance, each dancer plays its part. Each dancer takes their turn, and has their role to play. If there are three dancers in a modern dance on a stage, maybe one is more the star than the others or the focus of it, but that one needs the others to complete the whole piece. And that's very much how we are. So I like to think more in terms of what is the dance of those aspects of me. And that's in a way where discernment comes in, because it really is about different contexts. I often say there's no truth without context. There's different circumstances. One part of you is going to be more appropriate to sort of take the lead than the others. Each perspective will have a context where it's the most appropriate. And discernment is great there because it can help you to learn. Discernment and the next one, which is the second A, are really powerful allies in sort of becoming really aware of where each part of you fits in the expression part of the whole. But all of them are there. The wholeness mindset says they're all there, they're all available, and in a sense, they are all equal. And this can also work in terms of how you perceive humanity. Each individual part, each human being is an individual. As an individual, is part of the whole of humanity. I know there's a lot of unity ideas, again, in the modern spiritual dogma, but again, becoming discerning about what the implications or implied stuff around that is. Often it's really about, yes, we're all one. It eradicates the individuality. So that the unity I'm speaking of is more about harmony. It's about coming into alignment. It's the same with you as an individual, with you and other humans all playing their part, all having a unique and valid perspective as part of the whole human being. And beyond the human, each species, there's individuals within the species, but there's also the species themselves playing its part in the whole. So having that wholeness perspective just keeps that in mind. And if you take any unit as in like you, your family, the workplace, humanity as a whole, it's going to have parts. Even parts within you are going to have parts, but take any unit within that, it's going to have parts. So when you get the parts individually acknowledged and in harmony with others, then you have a wholeness state, then you have a wholeness perspective, and that gives you power, which I talked a lot about, as I said, in episodes 13 to 16. So if you want more in depth, especially on the multiple perspectives, especially, what would it be, 13, 14, 15, it'd be number 15 in particular, where I talked about time and the relationship to time. I think that's the one. Anyway, those ones, see, this is because I'm off script. Laughing at myself. I didn't write everything down. So go to those episodes. There's a lot about wholeness in them. All right. So WALK, we're on to A. A is for animation. So animation is a word that I deliberately chose to include as part of the non-personal awareness philosophies when I shared them. It's one of those interesting things where the word itself kind of just came to me, and then I looked it up and realized why, the universe had offered me that word. It's kind of a big concept, and I use it in different ways. So if you've heard it in different contexts, I'll try and cover those, especially in relation to MPA, the process. But animation, it comes from the word animated. I used to make little flip books when I was a kid, where you take a pad and then in each corner you do a little stick man and then slightly different. And then you'd flick it with your thumb and it would make it move. It was like magic. That's how cartoons are made. They're still frames that, if you move them quickly, if they are, if you move through them, then a change appears to happen. So it comes to the word animated. And also I think in terms of animus, there's anima and animus, the male and female principles, which is about the animating spirit. And that's really the essence of animation. It's the idea that we're being moved. We're even being breathed by the divine. And so let me just take a breath, take that in. We're being moved. I really subscribe to the idea that that everything is moved by something bigger than ourselves, ultimately by the totality or the divine God, the universe, all the different labels you can give to that consciousness, that intelligence that's working through us. All the inspiration comes from there. It's the source of all things, and it's the source of all change. It's the source of where all of us are animated. We are animated. Even if we go to the ideas of soul, how there's when you die, the soul leaves you and there's just a body. It's not animated. There's no spirit in it. So the big concept is that animation, we are being moved, we are being breathed. But the question then goes, so what's moved, when, and how? By the divine, okay? So and the question that's really useful is, where is the spirit already moving? Because if you align yourself with that, you're aligning yourself with the divine. You're aligning yourself with where the divine life is happening. So if we look at the MPA process and how I share that and teach that, I always say look for the animation, or I even say one of the, if you're around MPA at all, you'll hear me say animation is king, because it speaks to that intuitive capacity to sort of to notice God. So how that fits in, and it's quite a good way to describe what I mean by animation. So the way that the MPA process works, and if you haven't already downloaded it, go get it. It's just mpa4.me/MPA sheet, or just go to beabrillianthuman.com, and you'll see links for it all over there. But go and get hold of it. But the way it works is it starts with what I call a spew. Someone just expresses themselves as naturally as they are. And what you're looking for in that is what naturally pops out. It's just what pops out. So within the noise of the expression, within there'll be something that pops out to you. And that's the simplest way I know to teach everything you need to know about animation. Because it's as simple, when you get out of the way, just that pops out. We've got no agenda. Then you're going to say, maybe it doesn't fit my previous therapeutic knowledge, but it popped out, so I don't care. I'm just going to go, well, that popped out to me. And then whatever pops out, it's normally a word or a phrase, or it might be a gesture that goes into the process, which you'll see when you download the process sheet. You say the words and it shifts the relationship to whatever that energy is. And that's why it's so powerful. So in a way, what you're doing there is you're noticing within the expression where God is waving at you, where the spirit is, where it's already moving. It's how you notice the ripe fruit which is ready to drop. Who's in charge of making the fruit ripe and ready to drop? Well, you could say it's God's in charge of that. And of course, there's parts to that, isn't there? There's the sun, there's the environment, there's the weather, there's all those parts, all those mechanical things that have gone to make it happen. But when the fruit's ripe, it's ripe. That's it. It's ready to drop. And if you're there waiting for it with your hand underneath it, it makes it really easy. And in terms of doing MPA, that's where animation comes in. And in a way, that the skill of animation, because really my invitation to you is to really embrace that. I mean, doing MPA training and practicing MPA, I mean, it's a secondary gain that just comes along. It teaches you the skill of noticing what's animated. I mean, in a sense, to be fair, it really takes all the previous, as I kind of intimated, all the previous perspectives. So they understand that it's relational, to be a genderless, to be discerning, and come from a place of wholeness to sort of fully master this for life. But by practicing the MPA process, what it does, it wakes up the perspective of animation within you. So you begin to notice what's animated in your life, and therefore can notice the signs that are there leading you through the next natural steps if you take in agendalessness and all the rest of it into account. So that's animation, W-A-L-K. We're up to L. By the way, I'm sharing some big stuff here. So as ever, if you want to ask me questions, clarify things, offer some feedback, your own perspectives, do remember you can leave me a voice message at beabrillianthuman.com. Just hit leave a message. You can email me. You can comment on social media. There's always a post out that relates to each episode on MPA Rocks. That's in Facebook.com/MPA Rocks. So go there. All right, L. L is for lightness. Lightness. I love lightness. This is about holding things lightly, be that the multiple perspectives or the outcomes, just life itself. Lightness is such a great balm. So I guess this is going to be a simple one. Just let's not take ourselves so seriously. I mean, if you've ever had any experience of direct contact with the divine, you'll know that the divine is a big smile. I love there's that phrase, isn't there? Where there's laughter, there's God. Where there's seriousness, run, run. That's always spoken to me, and it's you can tell from the way I am on this podcast. I do laugh a lot, and it's not about laughing at; it's laughing with the ridiculousness, the magical, the mystical, the wonderful, divine silliness of this wonderful, serious, deep, beautiful life that we live. Which really, I have to acknowledge. Of course, there's tough and dark times in life. That's part of it. So in those times, I think that's having lightness as one of these pillars, one of these power perspectives. It just asks you to be as available to lightness, that you can be in those times. It's truly, truly powerful. All right, which brings us to the last one, which is K. And K is for kindness. Now, I have a mantra that I've used for many years. It's kind of I guess it's a check that I asked myself, which is it kind? Is it useful? Now, the useful part just brings the practical aspect in, but is it kind is really important to me. So if I'm sharing a perspective, offering advice, getting back to that, whatever I'm doing, I'm going to ask myself, is it kind? And if it isn't, then that's going to be a veto moment for me, See, kindness is like the softness of the heart. And in its true form, and we'll get to that. The true form invokes some of the highest states of being that you can experience as a human being, in my opinion. But there is a lot of what I call faux kindness or false kindness. It's based on duty. So much in our culture is sort of, said you have to be kind or you're bad. It's like, hello. It doesn't work. We're back to pressure and agenda. So we have a lot of false kindness. It's based on the idea of duty, or at least when duty is a chore that goes against your personal truth, then it's not really a kindness because it doesn't include you. I'm so passionate about this. I'm passionate about self-directed kindness because kindness starts with you. When you're kind to you, the kindness that you express to others comes from wholeness. So it has power. So I even wrote an ebook about it, right? I called it 100 Days of Self-Directed Kindness. I know I've mentioned it before on some of the episodes. And you can download it for free. Just go to mpa4.me. You'll get used to that. /be kind to you. And that, if I recall, is all lowercase, be kind, and then 2 is the number, and then you, again, lowercase. And again, I'm pretty sure if you go to beabrillianthuman.com, you'll find links to it. And I will definitely include that in the show notes. So again, beabrillianthuman.com/17 if you want to get your hands on that. It's funny, it came out of Twitter in the early days of Twitter. And I was doing a series of tweets, 100 tweets of be kind to you, which I put together as this little ebook. So you can practice 100 days of kindness. They're just little invitations of ways you can be kind to you every day for 100 days, which is a wonderful thing. So I encourage you to ask that question, is it kind to me? So let's say, for example, you've been in a row with your honey, the dust hasn't settled and you've got that urge to make it okay. right? It sort of arises in you, I need to make this okay. Again, duty, right? Or at least habit, or maybe avoiding dealing with the emotions. You got to check, is that really kind to you? So, if there's, maybe if there's more time needed, or there's more that needs to be said, or more that needs to be heard. If that's the case, then chances are, if you really ask that question with openness and without an agenda, chances are it's not going to be kind to you to sort of circumvent that and try and then reach out and make peace when you're not there yet, or to console, or whatever the thing is that's going on in that row. So, and when you think about it, it wouldn't be kind to them because it's not your wholehearted truth, right? In many ways, self-directed kindness, it's also a route to healthy boundaries, along with discernment. Getting clear on what works and what doesn't work for you is in a way is finding out what's kind and what's not kind to you. It's a very high form of honesty. Boundaries are a high form of honesty. Kindness, true kindness, is about honesty. It's a kindness to yourself and to others, because if you take not having a boundary, if you take not being kind to you, again, it comes back to that you're not really giving them you in truth and in wholeness. And on Boundary Bootcamp, I'm getting rather excited about Boundary Bootcamp because if you don't know, I ran Boundary Bootcamp last May and we're coming into spring. So right now the cart is closed, or it's not open to people. I'm going to open it again in spring. If you're interested in that, you can get on the wait list. So I'll let you know when we're coming up to that. Which again, MPA4, that's the number 4.me/Boundary Bootcamp with capitals on both B's. And again, you'll find the waitlist at beabrillianthuman.com. So yeah, be kind to you, be kind, include yourself in that equation of kindness. Ask yourself that question, is it kind to me? It's very, very powerful. And that will also help you again with boundary checks if that's something that's an issue for you. All right, good Lord. I waffle a lot when haven't got a script, don't I? 20 minutes for each section. Gotta love it. All an experiment. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to do a quick roundup then. So let's take a breath and do the roundup. All right. So I was having a quick think while I was on that little pause and wondering, have I killed the magic? Telling you that I've been using a script, but I've always wanted to know. I always watch the extra bits on films. When I used to have DVDs and videos, I'd always watch the extra features. I always want to know what's going on behind the scenes. Yes, they've been carefully crafted, and for the most part, I've stuck to what I've written down and offered that to you. But not so today. I have but bullet points, my friend. All right, so let's do the roundup. So, Radwalk, the 7 power perspectives are relational. Think relationally. So don't try to get rid of the stuff. Shift your relationship to it. A, for agendalist. Be agendalist. Be an explorer. Let yourself wander, as in not explorer that wanders around the hills for many a day, but I wonder. D, for discerning. Be discerning. Learn to recognize the energy behind the form and respond to that. And then H for wholeness. We're getting to well in a minute, I'll tell you. W for wholeness. Be mindful of wholeness. So that means to honor the different parts, the parts of you, the parts of the world, and the dance that they play as part of something bigger. A is for animation. Notice the animation. Practice the art of noticing where and what the spirit is moving. Align with that, and you align with the divine. L for lightness. Well, lighten up. Hold things lightly. Be playful. I hope I model that. And then the final one, K, is kindness. Be kind to you. Ask, is it kind? And include yourself in the equation of kindness. So I hope those 7 power perspectives have opened your eyes, perhaps confirmed what you already thought, reminded you of them, given you something to think about. As I say, if you take just one of them and run with it and really give yourself to it for a while, I'm sure it will make a difference in your life. In any case, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you spending this time with me, listening to my pontifications. I do hope it stirred you, touched you, given you some perspective that helps you sort of up your game in some way. Of course, I would always love to get your feedback. Message me all the ways that I've already described. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one in that relational way, then you can get hold of or find out how that works at joelyoungnpa.com/sessions. And also, of course, there'll be links to that on beabrillianthuman.com. Do subscribe. I'd love a review if you're on somewhere like iTunes or anywhere that has a review capability. Give me a review. Tell me how wonderful I am. I need to be adored, says my personality. So an honest review would be good. And also, again, if you've enjoyed this episode or any of the episodes, please share them. It's easy to share them on social media. You can either go to the actual, just share beabrillianthuman.com. That's a great way to start. Or if you like a particular episode, there's an episode you think, oh, that would really help such and such, or I'd like to share that with my folks, then just use the link, beabrillianthuman.com/whatever the episode number is, which should be easy with only 17 episodes to find if you don't know the answer already. So again, thank you so much. All that remains, as you know by now, if you're a regular listener, is to cue the moo.